Everything comes and goes, but you, the awareness of the coming and going, are always here. We're always this, pure awareness, pure consciousness. Finally, pay attention to thoughts in your mind, the thoughts coming and going in your mind, even the I thought, the me thought. Thoughts come and go, shift and change. But you, the awareness of the thoughts coming and going, are always here. Are always here. My new book has a mantra. Who is this me that gets triggered? Which you ask yourself when you get triggered. You ask yourself, who is this me that gets triggered? You go within to find this me that gets triggered. And I promise you, you won't be able to find it. The me actually doesn't exist, except as an idea, a belief in our mind, consciousness. And that's the most amazing revelation, when you actually see that the me doesn't exist, except as an idea, a belief. When you see that you don't exist, but you're still here, you as awareness, consciousness is still here, then that's liberation. That's true freedom. You need to know yourself as pure consciousness, pure awareness. You realize more and more that the less there is of me, the more there is of God, of presence, of here nowness. So that's my new book, Untriggerable. It's getting to the place where you really cannot be triggered anymore. I mean, you may be triggered for a moment or two, but you quickly realize, my God, that's me that got triggered. I'm not. What happens is practically is that your mind empties about 80% of its content, because 80% of the noise in the mind is me, myself, and my story, me, myself, and my suffering, me, myself, and my situation. Now you're free of all that. And so it just drops away, and your mind is much clearer. There's a lot of empty space in your mind, and your heart is open, because the heart now can be open. The heart truly opens, and you feel a sense of oneness with humanity, oneness with life, oneness with the creation. It's beautiful. It's really the greatest gift we can give ourselves. The Buddhists call it enlightenment. I like to speak of it in terms of awakening. It's waking up to who and what we really truly are. And I'll tell you about my own awakening. It happened 25 years ago. I'd been on a spiritual quest for 20 years, 25 years ago. So that's 45 years ago I started. And I woke up one morning, and I was 49 years old at the time. I was sleeping in my little cabin of the hills of Sebastopol, Northern California. I had a chiropractic practice in town. And I woke feeling depressed. And I had difficult financial circumstances at the time. I was paying child support and alimony to my ex-wife. Our son was 11 years old at the time. We'd been divorced since he was 6 years old. And I felt this depression, and I was about to get out of bed and go meditate, because meditation was my prime spiritual practice. But I stopped myself, and I closed my eyes. I thought to myself, how come this is still happening to me? How come I'm still getting depressed? Because I was pretty free already. And I remember something Jean Klein had said, my teacher, my spiritual teacher. He said, find out who you really are, and you'll be free. Find out who you really are, and you'll be free. So I closed my eyes, continued to lie in bed, went deeply into the interior of my own consciousness with the question, okay, Jim, you say you're depressed. Who is this me who's depressed? I searched everywhere inside myself and I couldn't find it. It was only a thought form. I feel depressed. I am depressed, which of course carried the somatic feelings of depression with it. When I saw that, something shifted and I felt very clear and vibrant and alive. Got out of bed and went about my day. The same thing happened the next morning. 3 mornings in a row it happened. I woke feeling depressed. After the third morning, it was over. It was done. The jig was up. I knew I wasn't this me anymore. I was free of my ego self. I still had an ego, but I was free of it now. I was free of the me that suffered. I've been basically free of suffering ever since. And now I write books and teach seminars and workshops about how to be free. What I've found is the quickest way to freedom is to learn to welcome your triggers. Whatever triggers you is showing you where you're not yet free, right? Whatever triggers you is showing you where you're not yet free. So you learn to welcome your triggers. Most people resist their triggers, avoid them, want to turn away from them. But the more you learn to welcome them, the more you discover, the more you find yourself beginning to develop a consciousness of bring it on, and I want to see where I'm not yet free. And that's when you truly get free. When you're able to say to yourself, bring it on, I want to see where I'm not yet free. That, my friends, is the doorway to true, lasting freedom. See, when you don't take yourself to be anybody anymore, you can't be triggered. I remember John Klein gave a talk back east. John Klein passed away in 1998. In fact, I saw him about 6 months before he died. He lived here in Santa Barbara the last years of his life. Well, he gave a talk, and this man put up his hand and said, Jean, every time I come and see you, you seem so relaxed and radiant and at peace and happy. Me, I'm always doubting myself, stressed out, miserable often. What's the difference between us? And John looked at him and then smiled and said, you still take yourself to be somebody. I don't take myself to be anybody. You still take yourself to be somebody. I don't take myself to be anybody. So this is what freedom is. And freedom is not taking yourself to be anybody. Like I have a name, Jim Dreaver, right? That's just my name. I'm not Jim Dreaver, really. What's the name I go by? I'm happy to go by it. I've gone by it all my life. So this is what I do. This is the nature of my work. And I would love to invite you to share where you've been triggered recently. And I can help you find a different way of approaching that to finally being free of it. Imagine being untriggerable. Imagine your life always flowing. Imagine it's here right now. Because one of the things you come to realize, the more you wake up, the free you get of this I, this me character, the more you realize that it's only here now. This is it. The time is always now. And so who wants to get free?
Jennifer has her hand raised.
Jennifer.
Yes, I have a feeling of rejected. I have a sister that I just made up with, and I asked forgiveness for whatever happened a few months ago. And I noticed that I told her, "You're my little sister. I love you. I love you." And I thought that we got back together with my sister. But now, whenever I text her or talk to her, we are just having functional conversations,
Yes.
like asking for directions. So that feeling of rejection comes from where I was a very, very young girl, maybe 2, 3 years old.
Yes.
And no matter what I am, it still filters in every so often.
Yes.
And then it hits me and I become ultra sensitive,
Yes.
very sensitive. And I always have a smile in my face. My pictures are always smiling. But deep inside, I have been having that feeling inside because of my very, very sensitive nature.
Okay. What's your name again, Jennifer?
Jenny.
Jenny, okay. Well, maybe I can tell this little Zen story, okay? It's a way of approaching rejection. So the two Zen monks were walking along by the river, and one was an old man, a master, and one was a young monk, a novice. And suddenly this woman appeared out of the forest and stopped the monks and said, I must get across the river to meet my fiance's parents. There's a shallow water here, but I can't get my kimono wet. And the old master said, "Sure, we'll make a bridge out of our hands and carry her." And the younger monk frowned, and he went along with the older monk, and they made a bridge out of their hands and carried the woman across, put it down. She bowed deeply and said, "Thank you." The monks went back across the river and continued their walk. About 20 minutes later, the young monk had been stewing, and the old monk said, "What's going on?" And the young monk said, "Master, we're not supposed to even look at young women, let alone touch them. And you broke the rules of the monastery." And the old master said, "You're still carrying her. I put it down by the river." So you're still carrying that memory of your past. That was the then. This is now, sister. Right? So you'll have a reason to smile. Your smile will be genuine because you'll be genuinely free. When you see that was the then, the past was real when it happened, but it's not real now. Do you have a question?
So if tomorrow I pick up the past again, I would just drop it?
Yes, exactly. So you drop it more quickly now. You realize that was then. I was rejected in the past. I was a little girl. There are two things I teach. My teaching can be summed up in 8 words. There is no me, there is only now. There is no me, there is only now.
That's very profound. That's very liberating. I feel very free, like a butterfly. Thank you.
I'm so glad. I'm so happy.
Thank you.
Awakening is easy, actually, when you really get down to it. We carry these stories. I remember I think it was Afton who was talking about the rage he felt. It's the same thing. Afton, maybe you want to share. Jenny. Your smile will become more genuine now. You're free of the past. That was then, this is now. Then you relate to people like your sister. You relate to every human being you meet from a place of true presence, from a place of true freedom, from a place of true love. The love that you feel from being one with the universe. When you feel one with the universe, or God, if you want to call it that, if you want to call it God, you feel loved by God. You feel this immense love flowing through you. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I feel a sense of peace and serenity
Beautiful.
from my whole body.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I was telling Pamela earlier that I wrote a book called The Way of Harmony. So you feel a harmonious feeling. It's like Whitney, you mentioned music. You're a musician, I guess, and music is the best music is perfect harmony. So I'm not a musician, but I've always sought that harmony within myself. And I discovered it through Advaita Vedanta, the non-dual approach to awakening. But the non-dual approach, the essence of the non-dual approach is we discover what we are by seeing what we're not. We're not our thoughts, we're not our feelings, we're not our sensations. These come and go. And when anything that comes and goes, we are what is always here. What is always here is this here now. In this very moment, this is it. We have this beautiful, pure, luminous awareness that's here right now. This is it. We have a mind, we have a past, we have a future, but none of this, the past has already happened, the future hasn't happened yet. But the more clarity and luminosity we bring to the present moment, the more we create a future that works for everybody.
I feel that there is like a radiant sun all around me.
Beautiful. It's all around you and it's within you. It's coming from within you. You are the light.
I'm very moved. I'm very moved.
Thank you. I feel it.
Suffering is not an option anymore.
There you go. Yes. See how simple it is. Awakening is very simple. I took a long and complicated path to get here. Believe me, I tried everything.
Jim?
Yes, Tim.
That mantra is incredible. There is no me, there is only now. It's like a double cut sword.
Yes.
There is no me cuts the ego. There's only now cuts the past and future. It just drops you right in. Really, really brilliant. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome, Tim. Thank you. I'm happy to share the gift, and you share it too with others.
Ron has his hand raised.
Yes, Ron.
Unmute, Ron.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Ron. Good.
Jim, you're terrific. The story of the monk I heard about 30 years ago, and I live with that. It's great. It makes me laugh every time I hear it. And it's a good lesson. A very close friend of mine who's 91 years of age told me something 2 weeks ago, and I put it into my daily vocabulary, and I'll share it with you. He said, you have to accept something. It's a word called do not quibble. People like to quibble. And
Right.
people that quibble waste your time. So if someone starts to quibble with you, smile, go to the bathroom, smile and say yes, and then move on.
There you
Anytime
go.
you quibble with anybody, there's no win. You've wasted your time, and you cannot afford to waste any moment of any day. And I started to live that about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it's refreshing and it's easy, and it's like a exclamation mark. I don't quibble anymore. I'm learning a new real, what I would say, an exercise. I
Yes.
don't quibble.
Beautiful. Reminds me of the Zen saying, sit or stand, above all, don't wobble. Sit or stand, above all, don't wobble.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, quibbling is a kind of wobbling, right?
Right.
I remember I used to have to agonize over making decisions when I took myself to be a person still. And I remember one day I was a lot freer, and I was having lunch in a little restaurant in Occidental, California, Northern California, town of Occidental. And I thought to myself, well, the most major decision I have to make today is deciding what to eat. So I was already getting a little freer. So this is the thing about the ultimate freedom, seeing that you're not the me. It's only about seeing. Awakening is only about seeing. It's not about anything you do. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to practice a special diet or do a special ritual or chant or pray or whatever. People do those things for 30, 40 years and still not free. You just have to see. It's all about seeing. Remember Shankara saying that the realization of truth is brought about by discrimination, and not in the least by 10 minutes of acts. So this discrimination, of course, is seeing. You just have to see that you're not your story. You have a story, but you're not your story. You have an ego, but you're not your ego. You have a mind, but you're not your mind. You have an emotional history, but you're not your emotional history. What are you? You're always this, here now. You know, speaking of the Tao Te Ching and Jonathan and Dana's wonderful translation of it, my favorite line from the Stephen Mitchell version, one of my favorite lines for the Tao Te Ching is at the beginning, where it says, the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. So the Tao, by the way, equates to being awake, equates to awakening or enlightenment. It's another word for the Tao. The Tao that can be named is not the Tao. If name be needed, wonder names it. Or hallelujah, or glory, or luminosity. Ultimately, you can't say what it is because it's just magnificent. Being here now. So I'm inviting you onto this reflection on being, just being here now with each other for whatever time we have. It's beautiful. Before I go to bed at night, as I make my bed up, I often making the bed up. I often pause just to stand there and reflect on not reflect on, but experience the flow of being here now. It's become my favorite part of the day.
Thank you, Jim. You give us such a beautiful gift of being, and it resonates very quietly but powerfully, I feel, throughout the group. I wanted to comment. You said something about music and harmony, and I have been playing a lot of chamber music lately, and there's a lot of non-harmony. and there's a story about music, and for me, giving up a lot of story. And what is it about chamber music that I like so much? Why do I keep doing it when there's, well, it's something I've done most of my life. And I think it's very much about the relationship of me to myself, to others, and to time, and that we're all participating in something that's greater than ourselves, that brings in another person that's not there, the composer, and the story about time, or the story about harmony, or the story about melody and all that doesn't need to hold us in judgment. It can be released, and sometimes they're just wonderful moments of bliss, of togetherness, of something greater than myself, greater than others, and I don't know, I'm just talking. But
Beautiful sharing.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I read a book called End Your Story, Begin Your Life. It's still in print, actually, and that title sums it up. Again, we have a story, but we're not our story. And so awakened people live without a story. They have a story, ready to share a story. I mean, particularly as we get older, we have millions of stories, right? But knowing you're not your story is the great freedom. Then when you know you're not your story, the stories just drop away, and your mind is clear. Your mind is luminous with clarity, and able to focus easily on what you want in the world. Playing music, or in my case, writing and teaching. Walking by the beach, as I do here in Santa Barbara every evening. And there's always a story available, like the Zen story I told you, shared with the group. But it's available in the storehouse of memory. Otherwise, I'm just being here now, sharing my being with you. We're sharing being together. This is the beautiful thing about community. We share this wonderful, the word luminosity keeps coming up for me, radiance, the radiance of being. And then we each have our gifts. Yours is music. I love to listen to music. My housemate loves classical music, so we have classical music on often. And it's very inspiring, chamber music.
Jim,
Yes,
this is Nita.
Nita.
I'm a visual person, and yesterday I had an experience of 3 messages coming to me during the day. There's a beautiful word called murmuration, and that is a word that describes when thousands and thousands of birds join together and they swarm in harmony.
Right.
The word, and they cover the sky and they make changing patterns. So yesterday I opened up my computer and there was a video of murmuration.
Beautiful.
And then I had to go to a website, and as I'm going through the website, there's suddenly a piece of artwork, and it's an artist has painted a murmuration, And then later on, I'm reading a book and there is a murmuration. And I wrote in my journal, I said, what is my message here? Other than the fact that for me, this site, I've only seen it in small, in Southern California, you'll occasionally see a mass of birds, but I'm talking thousands and thousands.
Right.
And I thought, what is the message here? And I think it's the theme of the morning. It's harmony. It's these thousands of birds whose lives are like, what do they do all day? Well, one of the things they do is they celebrate in a murmuration.
They're beautiful.
And when I get really down and I start worrying about things, I always go outside and look at a bird and I think, this bird doesn't have a family. This bird doesn't have to worry about things. And this bird could die in an instant. And this bird gets up every morning and flies and sings. And if that little bird can do it, God damn it, so can I.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful, Nita.
Thank you.
Maybe I give you a little tool too to next time you get down, ask yourself, who is this me that gets down? I promise you, and look within and try and find that me who gets down. You won't be able to find it, except as a belief, as a story,
Right.
an ego story.
I think for people like me, I recognize it, I hear it, and I forget it. It's hard to remember that this is the base rather than the goal.
Exactly. You've got to treat it as the base. You ought to always come back to now. It's another way of putting it. When you notice yourself getting lost in a story or get lost in worry, getting lost in anxiety, that's your signal to come back to now. So breathe. Say the mantra to yourself if you want. Who is this me that gets triggered? Who is this me that gets down? And you won't be able to find the me. And then you suddenly find yourself, maybe you see a murmuration.
Thank you.
You find yourself back here now. It's always and only ever now. No matter what the clock says, the time is always now. Tim.
Jim, again on this mantra, there is no me, there is only now. I realize that in the past, there's lots of books on now, going into the now. But what I realize is people would go into the now, but they would bring the me with them.
Yes.
So you're still bringing the baggage and all that stuff with
Right.
you.
Yes.
So that's what's so good about this. There is no me, there's only now. It cuts that out.
Beautiful, Tim. Ronald?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Two things occurred to me listening to you just now. On January the 20th, I will be married many, many years, and I equated those into days. I will be married to 24,000 days to a person I still adore. That's number one, okay? Number two, I've been in Mastery Circle 7,300 days. Isn't that awesome? I never did days or anything like that before in my life, and just listening to you. And every day in Mastery Circle, I adore too, because you learn and you learn and you trust everybody in this group as your fellow men and fellow women. So thank you for having me quantify days. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ron. By the way, there's a little painting behind me. says, it's a picture of the Buddha. It says, know the truth and find peace, share the way. Note the truth and find peace, share the way. And that's what I'm doing now, sharing the way with us, with you all. And it's a privilege, it's an honor to be able to share with you.
I'm very grateful to you that we are called the Mastery Circle International, and there's quite a bit of silence going on today. And
Yes.
it feels like the mastery of being is in the room, and we're all participating in it, even though we may be silent. And my heart is very full of love, and I just am very grateful for you. And I feel so much love emanating from you. And it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
That's what I saw. That movie. It was a great movie. Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers. Mm-hmm.
You know, Jean Klein, I told you, lived the last 10 years of his life in Santa Barbara, where I live now. And I came down to see him about 6 months before he died. And I actually gave him a chiropractic adjustment he laid down on the couch and let me give him a chiropractic adjustment. And I was a chiropractor at the time. And he couldn't talk very much because he needed round-the-clock care. At the end of his life, he had several strokes, kidney disease, and so on. But I swear the light of consciousness, the light of pure consciousness shone through his eyes just ceaselessly. And he was the light. And there's a bench dedicated to him at Henry's Beach in Santa Barbara, just north of, you know, Henry's Beach, I'm sure some of you know that. The bench is near the restaurant, and flag is on top. It says, he sums up the teaching in 7 words. It says, all things appear and disappear in silence. All things appear and disappear in silence. Jean Klein, sage, teacher, author. So when I go to Henry's Beach, which isn't very often these days, but I like to sit on that bench and just pause for a moment or two and just take in Jean's energy.
Mm-hmm.
But you use the word silence, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when you know you're truly free, when you're totally comfortable with silence. Because you realize that everything comes out of silence. Silence is our true nature. Silence most equates with being. So awakening helps us become established in being. And another line from the Tao Te Ching is this: the way to do is to be. The way to do is to be. So when you establish in being, then you do from being, which may involve thinking or may involve action. And then you have the results you have. Do, be, do, have. Be, do, have. You have the results you have. But you not attach the results for your well-being, because your well-being is already established. You're immersed in being. But most people who are not awake, who still take themselves to be a me, still take themselves to be a psychological, emotional person, they do have be. They're always doing what they think they need to do in order to have the results they think they need to have in order to be finally happy. And that only works when everything works out, which is half the time maybe.